Hello YouTube, today we are going to be going over the best Attack on Titan VR. I picked the top two, and that is Attack on Titan by Slavica and Attack on Quest. Now there's other videos out there, but I feel like there's some bias in between them, so I'm going to give you my non-biased opinion. Full disclosure here, my gameplay experience was with each is about, I don't know, 10 or so hours. So with that in mind, make a good judgment for yourself. So this is going to help the viewer, you, decide what is going to be the better game for you. Both of these games have PC VR ports, but I, for fairness, since we're comparing them, have them both on the Quest version. The Oculus Quest 2 is what all footage has been recorded on. Now I'm going to do a little scoring system here. So what we are going to score them on is movement, combat, AI, meaning the Titans, graphics, and ease of use. So these are obviously going to be out of 10, and hopefully these scores help you decide. I'm not going to claim the victor. I'm going to tell you which one I prefer, and this is all opinion based as well, so keep that in mind. If any devs come across this, I appreciate all the work that you guys have put into it. Both your games I think are fantastic. There's just certain things that I like from others, you know, here and there. So with that out of the way, let's get into it. All right, so let's start off with the movement in Attack on Quest. So this movement is very, very different from Attack on Titan Slavica port. The speed has a little bit to be desired, but that being said, it gets a little bit in the ease of use category because I was able to pick it up rather quick. Now that being said as well, the one thing that I don't like, and I get why they did it, it works for their game, I'm just not used to it. It is a personal preference, don't get me wrong, it's not a gameplay thing, it's all me. The grip trigger is to reel, and then the regular trigger, your finger trigger, is to shoot the grappling hook. So that can get kind of confusing. So my recommendation is, if you're trying out the Attack on Quest version, is go into a map and just sit there and practice, and use each hand individually depending on what you're used to. If you're like me, you'll pick it up pretty quick. It actually wasn't that bad. But on the grappling side of things, the grappling hooks, they don't carry, if that makes sense. So every now and then you'll have an object. It mostly appears to me on the forest map that they got, but for fairness, I am doing the Shiganshina map. Sometimes it'll go, but it won't connect, and your grappling hook will like go through the building. That is my biggest complaint. And they don't carry as far as Slavica's grappling hooks do. So, and even if you do get in that range, say your body swings, the grappling hook will go through the object instead of pinging onto it. So it's going to lose a little bit of points in that, just because it really, really bothers me. Like that's probably the hardest part of the movement in this game, is the fact that sometimes the grappling hooks just don't feel like they connect. That's the only complaint. Now, again, with the speed thing, it leaves a little bit to be desired, but again, I'm not a professional player at this game by any means, so I'm sure there's people that are faster than me, but I really tried to get her going here, so it's definitely not as easy to pick up that speed. But for the movement section, I'm going to give the movement a 7, just for the fact that it just feels good. I mean, it's a very casual, I think, well, more casual experience. And I'm not going to add tricking into either of these, because the tricking mechanics are completely different from each other, but that's just a little added bonus, is you can do a little bit of tricking. You can do front flips and barrel rolls and back flips in both ports. So yeah, we're going to give the movement a 7, and we'll go on to the Attack on Titan by Slavica port, and we'll compare the movement there. Alrighty, so now we're moving on to the Attack on Titan by Slavica. So right off the bat, you can immediately tell that it does look better. But that being said, it does have some performance costs, but we'll get into that later. Right now, the movement. Just notice how much faster I'm moving, and it feels good. Little barrel roll here and there. The movement is really good. The grappling hooks, hopefully you can tell what I was talking about. They carry through and they clip to the object. You know, if it's not going to reach, it'll hit something else, and that is the best thing in the world for me, I think. Now, this game is a little bit harder to maneuver in, that being said. It does feel a little bit better. It is a lot faster, but it does take a lot more experience. And I, by no means, am an expert at this game. I struggle at killing just a few Titans in this game just because the movement is so quick. But it is very fluid. It feels very good. There's just not enough good things I can say about the whole grappling hook mechanic they got going and the overall speed. It really feels like I'm flying through Shiganshina, and it makes me, you know, just gets my adrenaline pumping, you know, especially when there's a Titan in my face about to eat me and I can just zip away. That's amazing. It's amazing. I can't say enough about the movement. But another hard thing about the movement is you have fall damage. In Attack on Quest, from what I can tell, you do not have any fall damage whatsoever to speak of. So you got to keep that in mind while you're zipping through. But because Attack on Titan by Slavica has such a great movement setup, I'm giving it a solid 9 out of 10, hands down. So with that, we will move into the combat. All right, so right off the bat here, you can see that they have flares for a spawner, and this is something that I really like. We'll probably tackle the AI and the combat in one fell swoop here. So one thing I do like is the flare spawner, and you can see that they have set direct spawns for their Titans. Now, that being said, I'm not the greatest at this combat, but it is a lot, and I mean a lot, easier than Slavica's port. So it does feel good at sometimes, but I really have a hard time getting the attack like precision down, if that makes sense. It seems like the hitboxes are really fine, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It just probably takes more skill than what I got, which is power to them, great. But it also feels like I gotta swing with all of my might to get a kill, to get that nape to slice. It's really hard, but the AI in Attack on Quests are so much more responsive. It actually provides you with a little bit more of a challenge because they'll swat you out of the midair, and if you're on the ground, they won't just bend over and try to grab you. They'll crush you and try to stomp you, it seems like. And they added abnormals as well, so they're much more difficult to maneuver around and get a hang on, and it's really difficult. They also added a feature to where they can reach around and grab you on the back of their nape if you hang in there too long. So that is a huge feature. It gives you a little bit more risk versus, you know, the reward there. But again, the grappling really is just kind of kills me here. I'm not used to these grappling mechanics quite yet. As far as the whole grip thing, I keep forgetting that the grip is to reel instead of just hold on to my swords, so that kind of throws me off. But again, with more time, I bet you I could get it. But the combat here overall feels pretty okay. I mean, it's exciting, it's easy. I think it's easy because of the ODM movement. I think that's the biggest thing, is like you're not moving as fast, so it appears to be easier. But as far as the AI goes, it's actually, if they had that AI in Slavica's port, it would be immensely harder. It'd be almost impossible because the Titans almost feel like they're self-aware. But for the combat, we are going to give it a 5. Just because, I mean, it didn't take me very long to get to the point to where I could, you know, comfortably kill a Titan. But at the same time, the reason why I'm docking it a few points is because the nape cutting just does not feel quite right. It seems way too fine for, at least for me. Again, this is my opinion, so take it for what you will. I mean, you can say get good, scrub, and I probably will agree with you, but the combat just doesn't get me going as much as it should. Now, that being said, the AI, I think the AI is fantastic. I mean, they don't look the greatest, but as far as their movements and stuff, they provide a pretty decent challenge. And like I said, they can step on you and they can grab you in midair. They can crush you. They can do a whole bunch of crazy stuff. So in that regard, the AI is getting a solid 8. I think the AI is huge in this game. If they refined them a little bit and maybe added a little bit more detail in their little skin, I mean, it'd be great. And I would thoroughly enjoy that. But with that out of the way, we'll get right into the Slavica combat and AI. Alright, so now we're into the Slavica port, and first off, they don't have a fancy flare to make spawning easy. You have to navigate through the menu and use the spawner, and for me, the menu is really hard to navigate. That's a personal thing on my part. I believe it's because I can't select eye dominance. My right eye does not function very well, so it's really hard for me to get onto the slider and move it. So that being said, spawning Titans is not the easiest, but I do have to give them credit where credit is due. They also have a character select. I'm not gonna give them extra points or anything for a character select, but I do love that you have a full body and stuff. But spawning in the Titans is kind of complicated, at least for me. Like I said, it's just the menu thing. Another thing that is kind of inconvenient about the spawns is they don't have like a set spawn area. Like they don't spawn and they don't have a spawner. They spawn pretty much at your feet, and that means that they can spawn on the wall and get in really weird places. But you can see right off the rip, the combat is much faster. Sliding by, slicing napes, it feels so good, so smooth. It's butter, and I don't have to put a whole bunch of force into slicing. It more feels like I can just naturally come by, slice a nape and be done, or slice their feet and be done. I don't have to put a lot of force. It's just all momentum, and it just feels so much better. So it's really hard to say, but the combat for this guy, I'm gonna give it a solid 8 for combat, mainly because of how easy it is to just get that nape cut. Now the grappling makes it a lot harder to get that kill, but it is very satisfying once you get it, especially if you get a super clean one. You roll around, you slice that nape, you get your grappling mechanics down. This game turns into a absolute frenzy. The movement just makes it so much fun, and the fact that you can just glide through and slice a nape super easy is really nice. And again, a lot of people might be like, well, just get good, and it's like, yeah, you're right, I should get good at the other game. But maybe if this video gets a good couple watches, then I'll spend a lot more time in each game, because like I said, I only got to put 10 hours in each. So that being said, we'll give the combat an 8. So next is the AI. The AI has a lot to be desired. I think Attack on Quest AI absolutely outshine this AI, because you can see that they're just kind of still. They don't try to swat you or necessarily grab you. The only time that they grab you is when you're on the ground. So, and it's really hard to get them to move the way you want to. You can't like rally them up like you can in Attack on Quest. It's much harder to get them all grouped up and in one spot for you. But the AI is just I'm gonna be the one to say it's pretty bad. It's pretty bad. If once you start flying around, I think the hardest part at the beginning is getting the movement down. I think that's the hardest part. It's not so much that the AI are difficult, it's the movement that's difficult. So I don't know if it was on purpose that they dumbed the AI down a lot, but I feel like pros, once they get the movement down, the AI is just a joke. Like they provide no challenge, and it's kind of a shame, because this game, the movement is super fantastic. The feeling of the combat is really good, but the AI really kind of kills it. They just kind of look at you, and then if you're on the ground, they try to grab you. They'll bend over and grab you. But with that in mind, the AI is getting a 4 in Slavica's port, just because of how they function and how they act. So next we will move on to the graphical section. All right, so it's probably not hard to tell which one is gonna get the most points in the graphical section. Attack on Quest runs super well, so we'll keep that in mind with its score. But that being said, I mean, there's just not much to it. I mean, the Titans look fairly lifeless. The ground, for instance, I mean, there's no brick inlays. The houses feel it's not the most visually stunning game there is. Not saying it's a bad game, but it's just not, it doesn't have the graphics for me. So with that in mind, we're gonna give her a 3. With the Slavica port, it seems like they really paid attention to detail. It seems like they're really trying to add life to their world, their game. And that being said, I mean, you know, they put added grass and trees and a whole bunch of shingles on the roofs and bricks, and the game just looks stunning. The Titans look a little bit better. You know, they added a little bit character. They got the bulgy faces and deranged looks like they do in the anime, which is, you know, it just adds a little bit more life to the world, where Attack on Quest is just kind of, you know, pale things running around at you that are more or less emotionless. And the Slavica's Titans don't really have quote-unquote emotion, but they do have a lot more character to them. And for that reason, we're gonna give the graphics an 8. So next, we're gonna go on to the ease of use, and I think this is gonna be a pretty important category for both. We'll start with Attack on Quest. So Attack on Quest, I think, is super user friendly. I think if you want to get into either of these games, hands down, if you're kind of like, you know, get motion sick easier, whatever the case may be, Attack on Quest is just the absolute way to go. Its movement's fluid, everything feels good. It's a much better feeling when you're starting out, for sure. The reason why I got pretty okay at it pretty quick is because I played the Slavica version first. But Attack on Quest, the ease of use is great. The menus, the UI, everything is super simple. Reloading your gas and your blades is really easy. You just stand by the station versus having to individually insert one in. And for some people, that's going to be make or break the game. I understand. Like, some people like the feeling of, you know, I got to sit there and wait for my gas to recharge and individually put each blade into the slot, and that's great for some RP. But I think the easy use, hands down, goes to the Attack on Quest version, so we're going to give that one a solid 8. Moving over to the Slavica port, the ease of use is, the menu for me is really bad. Now, for me, I'm not going to really affect the score of it because, like I said, I'm pretty sure it's a personal issue. It's because I can't select the eye dominance, and the sliders and stuff are really small. So I'm getting, you know, 2 images or whatever when I'm trying to slide those dials and stuff and make fine adjustments in there. It's super difficult for me. So I'm not going to dock it too much, but the UI and the spawning system and a whole bunch of stuff is a lot more complicated. So that being said, the ease of use for me is going to be a 5. Like I said, I'm not going to dox it, but the menu is absolutely horrendous. Sometimes, like, the main menu is a great explanation of this. When you're in the main menu, there's text on the right side. Well, if you wanted to change, you know, say volume or something, say it's too loud for you or something, you'd have to hit the options, and then underneath the text that's on that wall, the option menu will display. So on top of having small sliders already, if you're in the main menu, you can adjust anything at all. It's because the text is blocking it, so you can't see it. So you have to get into game and adjust your settings, and that part is, you know, it's pretty frustrating for me. I think games should have a functional menu, and I think that's what Attack on Quest does really well. hopefully this lays out the lines and gives you guys an idea of what you would prefer to play. Like I said, this isn't a, you know, like who is, you know, absolute better. I think both games are great. Absolutely. I think they both have their own communities, they have their own rights, and I think that they both appeal to many different users. I think the Attack on Quest version is really good. And like I said, you know, I laid out some things that I would like to see from it, and I'm sure the devs are working on it. You know, both of these teams are, you know, they're private. You know, it's just a couple of friends, it seems like, that got together and tried to make a cool fan project. So let's keep that in mind and try to be respectful to them, because from what I've seen and heard, it seems like both of these communities have kind of been battling each other, and I don't think that should be the case. If anything, I think they should join up, because they both have some really good concepts, and I feel like them working together would be a huge help to each other, because they both have things that are super good and some things that are kind of bad. So, you know, if they could just learn from each other, that'd be fantastic. So let's if this thing gets a whole lot of views or whatever the case may be, let's try to keep the negativity out of it. I don't need fighting among communities, because the anime and gaming community should be fantastic, and let's keep it that way. So I hope you guys enjoyed. I stream most nights on Twitch, so with that out of the way, I hope you guys have a good day, good night, and I hope this helped.